So, this is the first women president of PSE&G in 118 years. So why not put the white male up to interview you? We talked about this ahead of time. We have a lot of appropriate questions. But let's just start with that topic, right? How did you get into this position, especially as a female?
So I've had a long, windy trail over a lot of years. Started at the company right out of school as an engineer in field operations. Learned from
What kind of engineering degree?
Mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
Although I build, transmission systems and stuff, but mechanical engineering. And made a point of getting my hands dirty and learning from the people who did the work every day, and was very fortunate that they taught me the business.
So what is it, we're talking about the utility of the future. I also want to lean in about the unique challenges that you may have faced, but can you explain to people, what does being the utility of the future mean to PSE&G?
So when we talk about utility of the future, we really talk about three pillars with that. We have our smart operations, our smart customer, and our smart network. So when you think about technology and innovation, which was what today is all about, it's going to require a lot of technology and innovation. We are in it to be the utility of the future. We're very focused on green energy and how we incorporate it. So we have a large energy efficiency program that helps customers save on their energy bills and use less energy. And then we have programs around EVs that are going to help people adopt EVs with building the infrastructure, the charging stations. And then we really have a great deal of investments required to get ready for that electrification.
So as you know, Tech United is a partner with PSE&G. We're giving away a $50,000 prize to a startup focused on the future of electric transportation happening here in New Jersey. I talk a lot about driving towards inevitabilities, right? Instead of New Jersey being last on the list, why don't we take the front position, the pole position? Why is electric transportation right for New Jersey, and why now?
Well, clearly, as you look at emissions from cars, if you eliminate that, it's a huge step forward for us. But we have to be thinking about that now. If everybody goes in the same day and plugs in their electric vehicle, the system wouldn't be able to handle that. So we're looking out over the next 10 years of what upgrades we need to do to get our system ready for that.
As you think about the upgrades to be ready, I mean, when I've talked to people, friends, about their relationship with PSE&G, sometimes the offhanded comment is, why aren't there smart meters in my home yet? Can you explain to people why there aren't today and why and when there may be?
There will be they will be there soon. We've actually got approval from our board in January, so we've started the implementation of our smart meters. We'll do about 80,000 this year, and by 2024, we'll have completed 2.4 million of our customers. So really foundational to our clean energy future, very excited about it, and it'll give customers a great deal of information in their hands.
What kinds of information do you think technology could be shared with customers to help empower them to make smarter decisions about their power usage?
Well, so they will see what appliances they have use the most power. They will see what programs
individual appliances
at that level.
And that's based on a unique reading from each appliance.
Correct. So that's some of the future enhancements. We will also be able to, on the road, suggest what they might be able to do based upon their usage patterns as well. So as I said, it's really foundational, and I think technology in that whole area is really going to be a game changer.
So we recently, for those of you who may live in this area in New Jersey, in Hoboken in particular, we had a major storm. Hoboken deals with lots of flooding. I happen to live here. What infrastructure improvements has PSE&G made that have made the grid more resilient?
So I said I've been here for a long time. So I've had the honor of working.
1986, if I remember right.
35 years. 35 years.
You should. That's a moment of pride, not shame.
But with those 35 years, I worked through Floyd, Irene, Sandy, and now most recently Henri, and then Ida. And after Sandy, with our Energy Strong program, we made significant investments in our substations and switching stations because they were severely impacted with Irene and Sandy. So 26 of those stations have been completed. With Ida, 8 of those stations had significant flooding, but they were not impacted because of the work of raising them. So you think about people that had the tremendous flooding impact from Ida. Now, if they didn't lose power, they were able to keep their sump pumps going. They were able to start their restoration process more quickly. So we saw a huge benefit from those investments. And we had a little station, Madison, over here in Hoboken that we've also rebuilt since that time, too.
I believe near the shop right in the back of town, is that right?
Yeah.
So we talked with Ralph Izzo, the CEO of PSEG, about the opportunity for innovators. So for those who are here who are working on the future of clean energy or electrified transportation, what message would you have for them about the willingness of PSE&G to work with technology companies?
So we have a great willingness and an interest in working with technology companies. We see it being key to our future. I don't even want to pretend that I can think about all of the possible technologies we need to make this grid smarter and better incorporate. We're looking at more digital channels for our customer experience. So bring it on is what I'm saying.
And to be clear, when we've talked to Ralph about this opportunity, he talks about big data as a real need, right? It's not just, you don't have to be in hardcore mechanical engineering. There are a variety of software applications here as well.
Right, absolutely. We use software applications in how we restore customers in storms and how we do inspections, and we continue to find a way to expand the use of them and adapt them to different applications.
So let's get back to being the first women president of PSE&G. Tell me, what were some of the unique challenges you think you faced in your career as a woman?
So as I've talked to women coming behind me, I talked about being tested, and I talked about my grit and resilience. And, I now know that the role I'm in right now is really creating that culture within the company that the women coming behind me don't have to have quite that same amount of grit and resilience. I have a daughter who is studying civil engineering, and I've raised her that way, but my hope going forward is she doesn't need to demonstrate quite as much of it as I did going through.
What kinds of situations were you in where you felt like you may need to do things a little bit differently because you were a woman?
Well, I would say I think there's some basics that I talked about that were keys to my success about learning from people who do the work every day and willing to get my hands dirty. So they had shots of me laying in the bottom of a trench, doing work with a chipper on a main and those kind of things. And as I said, once they realized I was there to support them and help them, they became my greatest advocates going through.
Was that the key to it, building real trust and
Yep.
advocacy among your colleagues?
Yes, it was.
So you mentioned this before, but what advice, obviously you're trying to pave the way for women in general. With your own daughter, what advice do you give her about unique challenges that she may face, and how how does she step up to those moments and exhibit that same grit and determination?
So those same kind of things about the resiliency and I always said if somebody told me I couldn't do something, I wanted to prove them wrong. I'll show you I can
Do you have any
it.
examples of that? Because most of these companies here were told they couldn't do it,
That's
and they
right.
ended up, so many of them, doing it.
I mean, there are so many examples throughout my career. I don't know that one stands out. Back in 2008, I built a new organization that was responsible for big infrastructure projects, and people said, you can't get up to speed that fast. And I said, I had the opportunity to really build a startup company within a regulated utility. We started with 40, ended up with 1,000, hired a really diverse group of people, and I saw the benefits firsthand of that problem solving that diverse teams bring to the stage. And the richness of the solutions. They look at problems differently and solve them differently.
So not everyone here is with his or her own startup. Some are working for big corporations and looking to build a startup within their corporation. Some corporations, their culture doesn't really allow for that kind of creativity and certainly doesn't allow for that failure. So what would you recommend to them to get a little bit of that leeway and wiggle room to allow for them to take some chances?
One of the things I've always said throughout my career is you pick a leadership team with you that shares your vision but thinks differently than you do, and I'll challenge you. And I always say you tell people where you want to go but not how to get there. And you unleash their creativity in order to solve problems and get where you want to go.
What do you think enabled you at PSE&G? You know, I think the perception is that it's not a risk-taking environment, perhaps just because of the age of the organization, but also because of the service you provide. How do you create the opportunity for failure inside such a large organization?
Yeah, I mean, so there's certain things that we can't fail at. You know, safety is a huge priority, and mistakes are deadly. And so those are things that there are no ifs, ands, or buts. But you provide people of where you allow them to experiment and bring new things to the table, and you treat it as a lessons learned and a sharing of saying, what I've told my team is, if somebody learns a lesson the hard way, we want to share that learning so no one else has to learn it the same way.
Yeah. So New Jersey, or PSEG's announced net zero by 2030. So what can the New Jersey tech community do to help achieve some of those goals? Because I think that's a team effort, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. So to achieve net zero, there is going to need to be a lot of investments in our infrastructure, and our infrastructure is going to have to be a lot smarter than it has been in the past to incorporate all different sources of power. So you think about the technology required around that. Around our SCADA system, so high tech. There is lots of information around how we use data and what we draw from that, and then in terms of information for our customers to make better decisions and are easier in working with us too.
So in the same vein, like that's how the community can lean in. The governor's announced some aggressive climate change, an agenda around climate change. What is PSE&G doing to meet those goals?
Yeah, so it is a big part of everything we're doing right now. So I talked a little bit about our Clean Energy Future program, which has a few different components, the energy efficiency for saving energy, and as Ralph Izzo often says, is the cleanest kilowatt is the one that's not used, right?
Which I think is such a fascinating thing, because he's always advocating for people not to use the product.
Right. Right.
Which is backwards from what 100% of these companies are doing.
Yeah.
Can you explain that dynamic? Like, how does someone who, you know, I know I'm sure you are savvy business people thinking about the bottom line, but why is using less of the product good for business?
Well, we now have, if you want to really encourage a clean energy future, you need to partner with utilities to use less energy. So there is a different rate structure in place that doesn't reward on using more energy. So that's what we have in place right now. So we have really good alignment between our state regulators, the environment, our communities, and our customers.
What do you think makes New Jersey a real opportunity that's differentiated from other markets? I don't know if you heard my opening remarks, but we think a lot about what are the unique strengths. In this case, the partnership with PSEG, I think, has shined a light on some of the unique strengths here. But when you look at other markets, you talk to peers around the country, what do you see happening here that gives you some encouragement?
Well, you know, I think where we've always been successful is where our programs align with the state policymakers, and clearly that is where the governor wants to go as well, and our programs are aligned with enabling that. So that's there is an appetite here in this state in order to have a cleaner future.
So I've asked Ralph if he were to leave PSEG and start a company, what would he do? If he could, you know, magically have a startup, what it would be. What would you do if you could start your own company today?
You know, I like my job. I really like my job. So at the point I am in my career now, it's a lot about building the next generation. It's an incredibly exciting time for our industry. So I'm having a lot of fun right now.
I think that's a fantastic answer, that you know, given the opportunity, the white space to say I'd go do X, Y, Z, you want to be doing the thing that you're doing right now. It's incredible. What would you say to other people who are, you know, you've had the, forgive me here, but sort of the anti-startup career path, right? A long tenure in a large organization, obviously driving innovation, and you explained having sort of a startup inside the organization. But for those who are thinking about that kind of a career path, it's not that common today. Average job cycle is like 2.5 years per company.
Yeah.
What would you say to people to rethink that as a career?
Well, So I would absolutely tell people to rethink, because when you look at a company like PSE&G or PSEG, even larger, is there's a lot of different jobs within the company. So,
You know, I realize I may have taken for granted. Could you just let people know the difference between PSEG and PSENG?
so PSE&G is the regulated utility that I am the president of, and PSE&G is the larger enterprise group that includes our nuclear business, our investments in offshore wind generation, and our service company providers.
So my bill comes from you.
Yes.
So if I have
it
a
does.
problem, can I give you a call?
Absolutely.
You're going to regret that answer for sure. But
Lots of
I-
mayors have my number too, don't worry.
But I want to go back, though, to the long career path, right? I interrupted you there, but the idea of building a long, sustainable, lifelong career in this case, really, at a large corporate, and why that might be something that can be, drive just as much a purpose.
So, even to be challenged and to get a new job every few years, you have that ability to do that within a company like PSE&G. Throughout my career, I've been in many different roles. I think I moved every 3 years. So you don't necessarily have to leave a company to get new learning, stretch assignments, and grow.
What's next for you?
I told you, I think what's next for me is seeing through the next 10 years with this clean energy future and building the generation behind me.
What can all of us do? So we've had two sort of threads here. One is inspiring women and empowering women in the right way. The other is about building a clean energy future in New Jersey. So I want to make sure that, leave us with some advice on both of those topics.
So I think today is Energy Efficiency Day. So there's things we can all do to save energy. There's programs we have available for folks, so please take advantage. It might be as simple as changing your light bulbs. And from a technology perspective is keep thinking about it, keep bringing it on, because the changes over the next 10 years are going to be huge compared to what I experienced really over my last 25.
I can't state enough how, in the mission of driving innovation locally, the partnership with PSEG is so important. If you are working in this space, Ralph Izzo, the CEO, is in the audience at this moment. Kim is on stage. They care. They're invested here locally. They want to see software and technology companies thrive, and I genuinely appreciate the partnership. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure to be here.